to another broadcast of The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. All past shows are available in podcast form. Visit ArtistFirst.com. We love your questions and comments. Send us to dj@artistfirst.com. And now here they are. We call them the wise ones, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
Who is this we that we speak of? Yes, we are the wise ones. No, we are not the wise ones. We are far from it. I am Michael Lyons.
And I'm Margaret.
Right, and this is Crash and Burn Radio. No, this is this is the Soul of the Everyman, and welcome to another wonderful, wild, wise show. I know, no, it's the beer talking, folks. And the therapy, and the therapy. And tonight's show is not about therapy. It is not about beer, although those would be two great shows to have, or beer therapy. But it's about grass, because if you don't have therapy and you don't have beer, you might as well have grass. But it's not the kind of grass you're thinking about. This grass has been legal for far longer. This is the kind of grass that metaphorically and actually really does grow everywhere. But the expression that we have put up or will put up, or in some future femtosecond will go up on the website, is the ancient saw, which is the grass is always greener. And I've actually heard it said both ways, Margaret. It said the people say, oh, the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence, or the grass isn't greener on the other side of the fence. And I think both things are true.
Right.
And what it really means, of course, is that it is always from the outside looking in, things always look better. It's like, people's pictures of whatever they're doing always look better than the actual situation. There's always that sort of, my situation is, I know everything about it, so therefore I know that I know all the warts and all the bumps and all the things that are happening in my life. But from the outside, it may look completely copacetic and calm and peaceful, especially if you're kind of handling it. And then you look at someone else's situation and you say, well, hey, they look like they have it all together and everything's just great, and why can't my life be like that way? And it is a sort of the human condition to always think that the situation you're in is worse than perhaps it actually looks from everyone else's point of view, and that everyone else's situation looks better than yours. And that's what that's sort of the topic tonight, is because the whole phrase that we have put up on the website, or will put up, is sometimes that grass on the other side, that other person's situation, is greener and looks wonderful because it's fake.
Mm-hmm. It's a carefully crafted construct.
Right, like women's fashion.
Oh, is that a construct, or is that a construct? And that's a fascinating one, because that one, there's whole huge groupings that contribute to that illusion. It is fascinating. But going back to this, why do we do that to ourselves? You always look over and you're saying, oh, it's got to be better over there. Why do we always have that voice playing at the back of our heads?
Right. It's sort of a critical voice.
Yeah. You look at it and you go, well, it could be better. But the truth is, it could be worse. But that doesn't always play into it. It's the first thing when someone's evaluating the situation. The question is whether or not it's better. And instead of taking it as it is. This is what's going on. It came into play, and I have to admit this, when first we had gone to Memorial Sloan Kettering and walking onto that ward, you're like, oh dear, is this for real? Because your first thought is maybe it's not real. Maybe the diagnosis is incorrect somehow.
Mm.
And you walk into that ward in the waiting room, and you see all these children in so many different stages. We didn't know that at the time, but just different stages of treatment. And some of them looked so bad. And a few looked, what you would call normal. So you're looking at it going, is this good or bad? I don't know if this is good. I don't want him to look like that, where someone looked very weak after a treatment. But you're looking out and thinking, wow, how do you know what to think here? I don't even know what to think. I think I'm in shock.
Well, to go back to the, that's an example that very few people, fortunately, can relate to. But in that situation, the tendency right away is to think, why me? And part of the grass is always greener sentiment is, my situation is the worst. My situation is, so much less desirable than everybody else's. You look over everyone else's lawn, everyone else's situation from the outside looking in. You're just an observer, and you say, well, why can't I have this great job, or why can't I have this fancy car, or why can't I anything? Why is my situation so hard, and everyone else's seems okay?
Right.
And there's a very sort of poignant bit of wisdom, which basically says, I'll paraphrase it, is that, be kind. The whole phrase is be kind, for you know not what the other person's struggle is. And if you turn it around, that's what it comes down to, is that, the grass is always greener because you know what your struggle is. You think at least. You think you know what your struggle is. You know that you're working really hard to perhaps, keep yourself on a particular, in a particular, keep all the things that you're doing up in the air. Keep all the jobs and all the things that you're juggling and all the situations and all the things that need you and all the things that you need, kind of flowing. So there's a lot of juggling and a lot of balancing in everybody's life. But you can see yours. You can see everything that you're doing. You can't see, the struggle that everyone else is going through because you're not them. And I think you started to say it before. So why do we do this to ourselves? Because we like to think that, that there is some easy way out there, that if we could just get out of this situation, everything would be roses and puppies and sunshine.
Well, yeah, I'll agree with that. I think we've been trained to believe that as long as we managed things, it should be green, it should be thriving, it should be going well. And we get caught up in all these tasks that you put your hand to, all these little moments of doing and redoing and overdoing. But, it's, how do I say this? It's allowing those outside environmental influences to take over. Because you're really not in touch with your own internal at that point. If you allow the outside to manage you, you can get torn to shreds. And I say that because I know that once we took a step into that world in the hospital, there were so many things that needed to be done at a certain time frame, and the urgency was always there. But unless you found a way to center yourself, you would really be just torn to shreds. You had to focus on what was truly at the core of it. And for us, that was easy. Our child was at the core of it. So what was for the best for him? And I meant, when I say the best, I don't mean just a physical, get this test, what did the spinal tap say, this, that, what are his bloods, da-da-da-da. I mean, there's a million and one things, details that you had to keep balancing. But the core of it was always, where is he in this moment? And I think that helps.
Yeah. Yes, of course. And I think, again, if you kind of draw it back to the the all of our situations are very easily, as you said, you let all the events in your life manage you, and that's when the phrase comes to you that, look at them, look at the other person, look across the fence and look at how wonderful their life is. They have their 2.5 kids, they have their SUV, they have their house with all, everything looks perfectly maintained and manicured, and their wonderful, lovely grass. And beside the sentiment that that's just in essence an illusion, there's the other sentiment, which is that you don't know what they're doing, how little they're living in that situation versus being lived by or run by that situation. And I think you've struck upon something, whether it's in a cancer ward or in everyday life. The key that perhaps we're revealing this too early, so don't get disappointed. There'll be lots of other things we'll reveal as we go. But the key here is that being in your situation takes away both the the kind of being just torn up or shredded, as you will, by all the events in your life because you're not centered, and it also takes away the look at over there and see how much wonderful, more lovely and wonderful and together those people are. The sort of desire to be someone else if you are centered, because in that revelation, of understanding that your situation is no different from anybody else's, that everyone is struggling, but yet the heart of it is not the struggle, and the heart of it is not to be managed by all the things in your life and try to keep all these things, up in the air and juggled.
Mm-hmm.
Is to be centered and realize that you cannot do everything. That struggle and joy and happiness and sorrow are balanced in everybody's life. That no one goes through life on a constant high nor on a constant low, and that to kind of imagine that you'll never ever get anything better or nothing will ever happen and you'll always be wonderful, is both those things are fake. You realize that therein lies the heart of the whole situation. But we do this to ourselves. In any situation, there is an immediate comparison done, and I think it's even worse today with social media, and because you can be constantly bombarded by the perfect images of everybody else, whether you know them or don't, and most times you don't. You're just getting this kind of snapshot of, look at me and my wonderful life picture of what I did today. Here's the food I'm eating. Here's my route to work. Here's my feet. Here's whatever, all these. Here's my cat.
Selfie. This is
my selfie.
These are my selfies. This is where I am in this moment. Isn't it marvelous?
Isn't it marvelous? Here I am, on the beach in Cancun or whatever. And the other sentiment that's part of this is that a lot of that is, whether willingly or willfully or not, fake, because it is it is a chimera. It is an illusion that's being put up onto, you know, everything is only shown in the best light, in the most perfect instant of time, and you get to edit what you show and then show it, and then that social media greener grass that's out there really looks green.
Yeah, you can choose your filters.
You can choose your filters. You can put your Snapchat filter on to be like ultimate goodness all the time. Unicorns rainbow pooping out of your butt. It's just wonderful all the time. Everything's good all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing the extent to which you can manipulate your appearance.
Right. And how easy it is.
It's exceedingly easy. But that's the question. It's like, where do you want to live at that point? Why do you want to live in a space where you're constantly comparing yourself to illusions or projections that have been put out there?
And Margaret, turn it around. And why do you want to continually give this false face? Always wall yourself off so that nobody sees you. They only see the edited, cleaned up, Snapchat you.
And it's, I think it's part of how we interact with each other. We always try, you always put your best face forward.
Oh, there's the great phrase.
Yeah. I mean, we've all been trained that way. Everything from you're supposed to have manners.
Companies coming over, don't eat with your fingers.
Right. Just that you've to show this is your best face. And it's fascinating to me because the idea of projecting your best face has been taken to an extreme now, to the point where if there's anything that goes wrong with your projection or your the perceived reality, in other words, out there, apparently you are allowed to go ballistic over it, which I find fascinating. It's like, but that's not your best face, but that doesn't matter. So what are we seeing at that point? Why is it acceptable to be able to go absolutely ballistic and spew on social media when the whole idea of social media was you're putting forth this face? What is it we're seeing? What's going on?
Well, you struck upon two wonderful things. And maybe we'll digress for a moment, away from the perception that the grass is greener to the fakery. The fakery part of social media, it's become incredibly easy to be a phony, a convincing phony. You're aided and abetted by the technology to an incredible degree. You mentioned the filters that you can put on, but you can be any persona you want to be. And I think the ranting, the kind of going ballistic and being this sort of anonymous angry person or this anonymous ranting person. It used to be that the people who did that stood on the street corner on soapboxes and ranted to the air were considered kind of crazy. Well, now it's a very it seems to be almost an empowering thing. This degree that you are able to anonymously rant and rave and carry on. So you find a persona, this persona that people will assume that behind this mask I can scream and rant and rave and no one will ever know it's me. And my other persona, I can be the unicorn pooping out rainbows all the time. And in my other persona, I can be this gorgeous, or handsome man or gorgeous woman, with all the filters and photos. So you now have all these. It's not just one sort of fakery, where you can be polite when company's over, and use the good spoons and bring out the china and clean the whole house so that the company thinks that we actually never use the bathroom. No one ever actually goes here. It's pristine. It's never actually been used. You're the first one.
Yeah. For the guests.
It's
Yeah.
for the guests. All the furniture is covered in plastic. But that's not what we do now anymore. Now no one ever invites anybody over to their house. Oh my God, heaven forbid! You should have people in your home. That's terrible. But all the phonery and fakery has moved out into the virtual world, where now you don't just have a clean house and a bathroom no one ever uses. Now you have, multiple personae that you can give life to, if you
Right.
will.
No, you're allowed to have avatars out there, which is fascinating. I mean, it would be more honest to say, well, this is my avatar for X, Y, or Z, instead of, well, this is who I am. No, this is who you've created. Who you are is actually quite different, but this is who you've created. And I thought that's an interesting thought.
We idealize the things about ourselves that we would like people to see, that we're strong or handsome or beautiful or have more money than Croesus, or all these things that we can't be in reality. We can fantasize about, but and then give, with the aid of technology, give life to. Like you say, an avatar is something which has a life of its own almost.
Well, but that's my point. It's like you are making an alternate life up to interact in a world of your choosing.
Yes.
And instead of it being in a video game, you're putting it in your video world, your e-world.
Your e-world. And in the e-world, everybody's grass is incredibly green.
Yes.
and your ass is green. Everyone's, that's an old saying, we won't explain it, but everyone gets to live in the perfect castle with the greenest grass and the greatest car and the most wonderful house and all these things now.
It's interesting though, because this is something that's been developing into there's an e-world aspect to people nowadays, which was not something that was even considered decades ago.
Well, you couldn't do it. To the extent that you could, if you were found out, you were considered a fraud and a phony.
A double life.
A double life. You would be considered living a double life. It used to take a lot more of your physical resources, to assume someone else's name or to spend money you didn't have, or to put on this sort of glad-handed persona that would cover up all the kind of things that you were doing behind the scenes that would be less desirable, and so people would have, sure, people had layers of phoniness. Remember, Catcher in the Rye, everyone, to Holden Caulfield, everyone was a phony. At the end of the day, the phoniness in people hasn't changed, but the ease to which you can indulge your phoniness has, I think, become, it's almost cost free. You get yourself a free persona on any one of a dozen or 2 dozen different social media, and all of a sudden you can be anybody you want to be. No,
but I mean, it's going back to you as a human being. You want to create your own world, but it doesn't always sync up with the actual world, so they run back to the world that's been created.
Oh yeah, the appeal of the green grass, or the fake grass, to use that same analogy, is incredible. And I think there's another side to it, though. one thing that social media has done is initially you could be anybody you wanted to be, and maybe you fooled a few people. But I don't think anybody who's done it is fooled anymore. So the other thing that's kind of been sacrificed on this altar of convenient personalities is the idea of trust. You no longer we
True.
as a people, right?
Right.
We as a people no longer trust what we see
Right.
on anything that comes in, all the channels, the phone, the email, the various thousands of ways of social media, all the things you see online. We, to the extent that it's become easier and easier and easier to greenify your grass, to the extent that we've all become very, very skeptical of how green that grass is. You know, so there's a ground truth under there that's operating. It's been pushed aside and pushed aside, but you can't push it all the way aside. People have the skepticism of people has grown tremendously with the ability for people to, because you say, well, that's got to be fake, it looks too good to be true.
Well, it's created there's a whole generation that just doesn't trust whatever is coming in on the screen.
Right.
And so at that point, you have to create new ways of thinking or doing or operating in order to choose. Because your choice at that point becomes very key in how you're going to manage your own life.
Yeah, well, you struck upon three things really, but two things certainly. So your ability to discern has to become very, very acute these days, and your choice has to be reserved. It has to be very. You can't just say, "Well, somebody said this was happening, so it must be true." I mean, why would they lie? That doesn't happen anymore. It's like, why would they tell me the truth? That's what people say. Well, people now sit there, both young and old, but mostly the young people, and they literally will look at everything that comes in and try to weigh it all. So, these 5 people said this, all different variations, but the common theme in there was maybe this could be possibly true. They've gotten very, very skeptical, and yet I think there's a tremendous desire for trust. So that there's the inability to trust what you see has created a great desire to find some way to trust.
Mm-hmm.
So the people are still people, amazingly enough, and they want to trust. They want to find someone they can trust. Have a relationship is a basic, in fact, a very intimate level of trust. To have a real relationship, either a friend or someone who you really have an intimate relationship with. You must come to ground truth at that level. You can't at the grass is greener, everyone's grass is green level. You can't have a relationship because nobody's telling the truth. All those chimeras and all those avatars really can't have relationships.
It'd be a very superficial relationship because the interactions are strictly on what you've carefully crafted.
Right.
And that set of responses carefully crafted is the only thing that you're going to use to respond to any kind of situation or relationship. It's
right.
Very limited.
It's extremely limited. And I think that not having that level of trust means that there's a lack, there's a hunger. But you know what we're going to do? You guys, I know. First of all, you can trust us because everything we say here is true. And the truth of it is, we have to go to studio break for a commercial. And you guys think about this, and we'll come back. And I promise we'll be back, and the grass will be, brown.
Rick Riordan fans, love mythology with plenty of action and humor? Destroyer's Blood is for you. The new fantasy novel by award-winning author Michael Lynes is book 1 of the adventures of Devkalion, the Blood series. Follow Dev and his magic sword Betrayer as they are suddenly attacked and forced to return to Olympus to fight in a war they want no part in. The world of men and gods is about to be destroyed by Zeus's ancient foe, and only Dev and Trey can stop him. The conflict never stops, and the amazing twist will have you on the edge of your seat. Act now while the ebook is on sale for only 99 cents. Destroyer's Blood is available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere. And while you're there, get the free prequel, It's in the Blood, available for a limited time.
The Timeless Esoterica radio program with Dr. Bruce is broadcast on the fourth Monday of every month at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern on ArtistFirst.com. We explore topics including the paranormal, alien life, mysteries, conspiracies, hidden history, oddities, and much more. Each show will feature a special guest with exciting and thought-provoking discussion. Always keep an open mind, an open heart, live forever, and remember Dr. Bruce believes in you.
There is a Reaper is the story of 5-year-old Christopher Aaron and his life-changing struggle with leukemia. Winner of both the Indie Bragg Medallion as well as the reader's favorite silver medal for memoir, There is a Reaper has more than 100 Amazon book reviews and a 5-star rating. It has been described as life-changing, spiritual, a must-read. Just released on Audible and iTunes, this memoir is also available in paperback and on Amazon Kindle for only 99 cents. Get your copy of this life-changing memoir today.
Hi, this is Hannah Ruth from the band Wild Hum. Check out our new Americana Soul CD, Wild Hum, at our website, wildhummusic.com. And you are listening to the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Thank you.
The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed is the latest book from Michael Lynes, the award-winning author of There is a Reaper. Featuring 13 original stories, this wide-ranging collection has everything. Forbidden love, gods versus demigods, weird invading aliens, sexy seductive artificial intelligence, and unusual passion between the living and the dead. All set amidst fantastic worlds of pain and loss and boundless joy. From the sublime to the macabre to the bittersweet, The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed will leave you breathless with laughter, brimming with tears, trembling with suspense. Available now on Amazon.com, Google Play, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere.
Thank you for joining us on The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Let's get back to your hosts, Michael and Margaret Lynes.
Thank you very much, Z-Man. And this time we're not the wise ones, thank God, because that would be a persona. and tonight, and welcome to the top of the bottom half of the second hour of the second half hour. I can never get that right. Tonight we're talking about. We started out with the phrase that is fairly familiar to most folks, which is the grass is always greener on the other side, and it really comes down to that. That's sort of a human expression of that we always think everyone else's situation is better than ours. But I think where we kind of ended up at the bottom half of the first half hour is that the current situation we find ourselves in, at least in the Western world and the technological world, maybe everywhere, is that it's become incredibly easy to live in this greener grass world, this world of social media where everything you do is edited and filtered and made to look wonderful. We now can always live in the companies coming over, wear your best stuff, clean up everything, never use the bathroom world, and all the reality of life, which is that we aren't all perfect, and that we sometimes are needy, and we're sometimes happy, and sometimes sad, and just the life of actual people doing actual things can all kind of be papered over very easily, and I hesitate to say convincingly anymore by social media, because the other thing, that kind of the giant thing that has arisen amongst all of us, is this immense skepticism about what you see. And it's even worse, or perhaps the people who are the young people now, the millennials or whatever Gen 72
X
they are.
And Gen Z.
Gen Z,
Gen Y.
Gen whatever it is, now don't really, perforce, don't trust anything they see or hear, because everything that's been shown to them, they know how easy it is to make things look good and sound good and be really just kind of a play acting, like you said, an avatar. But where we ended up was that I think that there's a tremendous need at a human level for relationship that's never going to go away. And relationship, whether it's with a friend or someone you're intimate with, requires trust. You have to believe that other person, or when you break trust, you break the relationship, and you can't heal it with social media or with avatars.
Well, but that's the illusion, though. The sometimes I think that's the reality of trying to live in the real world creates such stress and tension that they just want to create a world where those things just don't exist.
There's certainly that, yes.
They'll run to it, but it's like it doesn't necessarily teach you what you need to know to be able to go and participate in this outside world.
I think it's also very unsatisfying at the end of the day. I mean, yes, you can be there for a while, but at the end of the day, it doesn't feed you.
True. Because you do need the interactions. I mean, every single human being needs to have relationship with someone. And something living.
Right.
That's how we're made. We don't understand, it's why a lot of getting involved with things, like trying to accumulate things or just interact with things, becomes very empty.
Yes. And I think relationships, Margaret, the real relationship begins, let's take all the social media out of it. Let's just talk about people. People, when you first meet somebody, you always want to, as you said, I think in the last half hour, you want to put on your best face. You dress up. You brush your teeth. You give them a firm handshake. You wear your most pretty dress, whatever it is, and you meet somebody. And to the extent that you lower your guard a little bit, you start to tentatively explore. Well, suppose I say something which is a little bit less like polished, or somebody says, well, let's do something that's a little, that doesn't kind of jive with this sort of persona I put on front of me. It'll show you a little bit of the real me, and then as a relationship starts to move past the surface, whatever it is, whether it's social media or dressed up nice, you start to see the real person, and you start to connect at a more intimate level. And when human beings, when we get into a real relationship with somebody, they know you at your worst. They know you at your weakest. They know you at your most needy. And they understand a lot about who you really are, which isn't always weak and needy and lost, but those things are part of actual you, not in any way dressed up phony you. And to the extent that you can extend yourself into the other person's realness, of being strong and weak and powerful and needy, and that's where real relationships happen. And I think regardless of the social media and how much people are able to fake things and how little we can trust sometimes the things that we see, the need for intimacy means that you need to come to some sort of level of real interaction and therefore trusted interaction.
Need to make contact. And it's very right at the core to be able to have someone just accept you. Because the whole idea with what we're seeing is that putting on your best face was supposed to mean attracting someone so that the two of you could interact with one another. And you want to attract someone because you do want to have the ability to share without having to worry about offending or not doing it right.
Right.
The term is, you get me. Oh, you get me.
Right. Exactly. And it means you understand me. And in both providing understanding and being understood is a basis, or it's a linchpin of a relationship. When you get right down to it, we trade back and forth in a relationship our strengths and our weaknesses. In equal measure, you ask for what you need from someone with whom you have a relationship with, and you provide what they need. So there's need on both sides, and there's provision, there's strength or ability on both sides. Those things perforce mean you have to trust, because when you say I need, the other person has to understand that you are in a less than complete situation. You are lacking something, whatever it is. And in these social media, grass is always green, we're never lacking anything. Everything's always wonderful and strong and perfect, and the sun is always shining, the food is always golden, and it none of it ever says I need something. I'm not perfect. I'm willing to trust you with that information, with the information that I'm a human being who isn't, some sort of god from Olympus, where everything about me is perfect and wonderful all the time. And you have to trust that you can share that information. Then you have to trust that information can be shared with you, and that confidence remains with you. One of the things people do, again, on these lovely social media sites is they will call people out, in essence, shame them in front of everybody, or reveal their weaknesses, or reveal secrets that they were told, oh, this one does this and that one does this. Well, this kind of breaking trust is now become not just from something you can say where the rumors fly around town. Now it goes flying around the world. Everybody in the world now knows that you learned something about this person that portrays them in a less than flattering light, and that you can tell everyone all at once. Now you have the ability to break trust at a global level, and it happens all the time. People, you can see it in every piece of the media sphere, where someone tells someone something in confidence, and that's instantly that confidence is broken, and you throw them, you feed them to the wolves. Well, that has to affect our current generation. They're now very, 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 very circumspect about who they tell what, because they know that trust broken means that everyone in the world now will be able to potentially know the thing that you trusted somebody with, this confidence. So trusting someone with a confidence now, with something that you feel is worthy of trust, is a great honor. It's something which you say, well, look, I really trust you. I'm going to tell you something that I don't want everyone else to know, just you and me. It's our shared thing. It means that they understand how precious trust is.
Well, this generation growing up has begun to understand how valuable their eyes are. In other words, everything out there is trying to get their attention.
Yes, that's the other thing.
And they learn that at an early age. So that is core to, well, this thing is popping up on my screen. And the screen originally was supposed to be something that you decided what was going to be on there.
Right.
Okay, originally, that's the whole idea. But now there's all types of advertising going on and things that are trying to get your attention. And you learn that your attention is precious.
Yes.
So what is it that you are going to give your attention to? It's a more conscious action, and you realize you can't give your attention to everything, because then that's almost an analogy of letting your environment just run your whole life. It's like, no, well, my attention's being drawn by all these little pop-ups or things that are floating by. No.
Yeah, I mean that's so perceptive. You're absolutely right. The term clickbait, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a wonderful juxtaposition of words, because a click is synonymous for attention, and bait, bait's a trap, right? Bait is something you put out for mice.
Well, the bait is to try to snag your attention, your eyes.
Yes.
So when you realize that the whole focus at this point is trying to snag your eyes, it puts a different perspective on how you handle things, which is the reason why I think most people don't understand why the millennials do what they do. Because they have already understood that everything out there is trying to get my attention. And it doesn't matter necessarily that it's people that I know that are trying to tell me these things. How do I know what they're telling me is true?
Yeah, they've become very cautious with their attention, and it's not something we can say anything more than that their environment has required them. People, we as human beings are incredibly adaptable to environment. When environment places undue stress on it, we adapt to it. Well, these kids, no longer kids anymore, now they're 20-somethings, we're inundated with this environment of fake grass, and now they've learned how to tell when the grass is real. And we're not of that wasn't our generation. We knew when the grass was real. The grass that got on your knees and stained your knees was real grass. Well, now these kids know how to reserve their attention. They know how to make the grass look wonderful, but they also know that everyone else they are showing that wonderful grass to knows it's possibly fake grass. So to get past, in our day would have been get past the politeness and the phony suit and the flashy car or whatever, and get down to the real person. They know how to weed their way through, many more layers of this sort of fakeness to get down to the real person. But they've gotten really good at it.
Well, if you observe, and it is always fascinating to observe the way people interact with others, their way of looking at everything, first and foremost, especially since we were at the store.
Yeah.
They are looking for people who are real or true. It's what you see is what you get.
Mm.
So when they first meet someone or they're meeting you, it's they're polite, but they're just taking in, what is it that you're doing and saying. And it makes you sensitive to being manipulated.
Yeah.
So that feeler is out. It's like, am I being manipulated? That's usually the first question. Like, what does this person want from me?
Right.
Is this a manipulation? And I think that they, correct me if I'm wrong, although people are people, but correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me as if that aspect of that question of, what do these people want from me is much more present in the minds of the young ones than it was before. They're not taken in necessarily by the outward appearance.
Appearance, exactly. That's exactly correct. I think, I'll speak for our generation, the people who were born in the 60s and so on. I think we were much more trusting of people's word. If somebody said something, you say, well, that must be true, because why would they say it if it wasn't true? You would hear things like that.
That was a different society. Your word had value.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. I think that's where we were. And I think perforce, now that has been revealed to be incorrect, the people, the kids today and the people who are growing up today are very much more, exactly as you said, they're very much more aware of two things. When their attention is being manipulated or drawn, they're the clickbait, and when somebody wants something from them, and they see deeply, they see past the glamoury, the kind of the surface. In fact, if they see all surface, they immediately go, nope, sorry, you're just clickbait, you're just surface.
But that question, having that question of what do you want from me,
right,
forces a deeper look into who's presented and what's presented.
Exactly. So that's it. You have to trust people. They're different from what we were. I'll just say that our generation would not necessarily find that to be so appealing. If you were that kind of person when we were growing up, you say, "Why are you so suspicious about everything? Come on, I say it's true, it's true. Why are you being such a jerk?" Well, now that's not only just a survival technique, but to the extent that you're perceptive and sort of testing, distrustful in that regard, you are more apt to be, a successful person in this society. Successful in the sense that you know how to find a real relationship, because you really, really have to be perceptive and say, this feel the sensitivity of the heart, the tiniest tremor of this doesn't feel right. You have to listen very carefully now all the time. Nope, not right. And when it's right, you can follow it, because you say, wow, this is right. This does feel right, all the way down to the core. We're getting right to the core quickly. So when there is resonance, they find it very quickly. And when there's dissonance, when it's phony, when it's fake, they find it just as quickly. It's not that this is some sort of superpower, but when you find yourself trained by this intensely always green grass, so I'm sorry, but the grass can't be that green. It just can't be. So I've got to find the truth. I've got to find the real person behind all the masks, because that's an imperative. That's a racial survival imperative, and I mean human race, not one race in particular. I'm saying human survival imperative is to find relationship, to find someone you can actually be real with, because real at that level is important. It's life or death, and no matter how much glamoury is sprinkled on these people, they have to find the way to the heart. That's
Well, there's a flag that goes up in their minds when it's dissonance, and when things are not reflecting true.
right.
They're seeing the error of what the reflection is, or what's out. This is not right. There's something wrong. There's something missing, and have already decided, no, I'm not participating with that.
And they just draw back.
They just draw back and say no.
And it's even they don't even give. They've learned not even to give the negative attention. Not even to say no. They just draw back.
Right.
Because even the negative attention is enough for these green grassers to take.
They just withdraw.
Right. There isn't a yes. There isn't a no. There's just a.
Yeah, because when they found that when someone's engaging them in an interaction, there's always, there's a hook in their language. There is a hook in their language. I don't like that hook in the language. I don't want that kind of relationship.
Right. Even refusing it is a hook.
Well, they just no. But when I say no, it's not they're necessarily verbalizing the no. They just they shut it down.
Right. Exactly.
And that's it. And I think that's why people get confused, because it's interesting, because most people have hooks in their conversation because they're trying to draw out information. Right. And we've raised a whole generation that is hypersensitive to that fact.
Right. And so trying to elicit that information, you get an instant shutdown. Mm-hmm. They just, the instant, the hook is, even the subtlest hook is abhorrent to them, because they've been trained too much that even the tiniest hook is too much of a hook. In some ways, these folks, this generation is really going to have the heart as their guide, because that's the only thing you can find it. Mm-hmm. And the heart and the hook of the end of the show is in my ear right now. The heart is guiding us to the end of the show here, but the grass is very green out there, but a lot of it is fake. So be discerning and follow those kids. They do know. Their hearts are true.
Their hearts will tell them true, but at the same time, you've lived a life, or those that are older, we've lived a life without all this. So there's some wisdom that you can impart to them, because they're looking.
It's true, as long as you can get past as long as you can be true. So anyway.
All right, now we've reached the end of our show, and I'm Margaret.
And I'm Michael.
And thank you for listening.